First of all, there are two letters provoked by two incidents. There are two different incidents that happened ironically or coincidentally the same month. The first letter is based on a television series, Rentagoli, that is actually now playing. It's out there, and provoked by offensive material, offensive to Italians as far as I was concerned. And so I reacted to the letter, to the script rather, and wrote the producers through the casting director. And then in the letter I also outlined a series of experiences that I've had in cinema and theater, where either in Quebec or in English Canada, where the same systematic ideas and thoughts about Italians, you know, notwithstanding that you might have a French Canadian who says, oh, we love Italians more than the English, or notwithstanding English Canadians who say, oh yes, we have such an appreciation for Italian culture. There's something insidious that happens when you look at the work being done about Italians and how Italian characters are portrayed on screen. And then you have the guinea pigs, the Italian-Canadian actors, who embrace these awful stereotypes and don't stand on their two legs and actually say anything about it or react to it. And in many cases, you have also Italian-Canadian writers that foster this idea by writing material that is not authentic to them, but that actually tries to please the listener or the audience, which is usually the English-Canadian. So that's the first letter. The second letter was based on a production of a Goldoni play, The Amorous Servant, where, again, actors who were trying their hardest were totally lost in a sea of ignorance by the director, who didn't know what commedia was. But that wasn't my problem. My problem was reading the papers and finding that two critics had weighed in on the production, and what they said about the production was so off base that now you go, okay, with their ignorance, they're committing two crimes on top of the director who didn't know what he was talking about. And the worst part about all this was that the one actress who knew what she was doing, very talented in commedia, was the one taken to task by a critic. And I thought, the one person who knew what she was doing gets actually called on it. And actually she was referred to as a Carmela Soprano, as if Carmela Soprano is a negative thing, and that basically she wasn't being what an 18th century matron should look like by a critic who clearly has absolutely no idea about commedia at a practical craft level. So I thought, my God, ignorance, this is so Canadian. Ignorance of craft all of a sudden becomes a weapon used against the one person who does have the craft. So in a sense, my response to that letter, to those reviews and the production, was an effort also to vindicate the actress, but not only the actress as a person whom I know in a very distant way. I know her, but not that well, but it was defending the actor and the artist in every human being and say, you cannot point a finger at a person who knows with ignorance. You cannot use your ignorance as a weapon to attack those who do know something and who do have the tools. And I thought that is something so Canadian. But of course the actors would never defend themselves. We're not in a culture here of standing up. I mean, we say we're in a democracy, but I think every actor that I know, or I mean, not every, I shouldn't say every, but a lot of actors I know, a lot of artists, therefore a lot of people, are afraid to speak their mind, are afraid to actually risk voicing an opinion and debating on it. I mean, you would almost think that there is no room for a critical mind, whether it's in the community or outside the community.
It's hard sometimes, as an Italian actor, you know, those are the type of roles you're going to be asked to go in for, and I've gone in for a lot of them, and I've played a lot of them. But try to bring a humanity and a dignity to everything that I do, sometimes with success. So yeah, I understood what he was talking about, and you know, the defense is, well, hey, I want to work, but the truth of the matter is, if you're going to disgrace yourself or your culture or your family, you know, like one of the things he says is, can you look your father in the eye? Then it's like, well, maybe you should get into another line of work. So.
At least these two incidents gave me an opening to discuss the general through specifics. I could point to these two things that happened, the script, this television series, and these two critics, what they wrote, and the production, and points to very specific things to then give me an entry point into this pattern that has been going on at least as long as I've been in Canada, since 1965. And I mean, I guess one could say on the very superficial level, oh, I've had enough, so let me talk about it now. But no, I thought it's not that. It was more of a reflection that where does one go from here? You get nominated for an award, you pick up your award. Most of the time you think it's for work that is actually mediocre. Mediocre meaning that the people, notwithstanding the talent of the people who came together to do the project, we somehow underachieved. Not because we tried our best, but because we didn't try hard enough. And you think, how does this make us feel good about why we're on this earth, for crying out loud, you know? How do you do another project and get another nomination or an award and they collect dust? I mean, is it that, you know, what is the meaning in that anyway?
He touched in so many areas of like just our industry here that is, that's important, things that need to be talked about, you know. Specifically what hit me the most was just the work ethic idea, just that we sort of just, it's supermarket frenzy and then we just churn things out so fast in our bar as far as, you know, we just seem to be that lowest common denominator mentality just seems to keep going, and there's less and less room for quality or sort of a work ethic that aspires to be something more, and as there's a certain responsibility. And I know that even when I started acting was part of the thing that I wanted to be part of projects that meant something and said something, you know, and now you got, you know, it's just asinine, some of the stuff that's coming out there. It's just so juvenile and dumbed down, and for who? We're supposed to sort of hopefully, you know, I think there's a level of responsibility to elevate and educate, and that's what, you know, certainly that's what I try to be a part of, you know. And even in parts that seem complicated or difficult, or you're playing a bad guy, there's sometimes, even in those things, there's messages that need to be said. So it was really, really inspiring. I'm really touched by what he, and I thought his words, his poetry, his writing was absolutely brilliant.
And after the first reading I had with a group of people, and the reactions were like many, and some of them quite aggressive and some of them quite angry. After the break, I thought, oh my God, I think that the development of the letters will be developing them based on the reactions to them. So each reading that I had different reactions to the letters, incorporated not the people, but the ideas that came out, especially the criticism, and dramatically explored it through the letters. So you still have the intent of the letter and the actual content of the letter, but you also have the dramatic structure of a development based on how people perceive those letters. So it became actually a sharing of the exploration and the creation of these letters for presentation. There are always works in progress, because new people that come in, like if you would say something to me today, quite devastating to me, or that would make me think, oh my God, I hadn't thought about that before, then I would take issue with it and reveal it in the letters and debate it in the letter. And so that's how I've developed both letters. And they're not polished, they're not like, not that anything perfect exists, but they're not in any way meant to work in the kitchen and then impress you with what they are. They actually reveal the process of creation at whatever state they are now. And if I were to do them 6 months from now, they would grow into whatever they are 6 months from now. And I probably will change them based on each reading. Wherever I go, if people because I will have a question and answer, just the way we have it when we do the private meetings. And I will be there with a computer. I'm not there alone with memorizing the lines. I refuse to kind of do it as a piece. I want to do it as a letter format that becomes an act of theater, because they are dramatic in many ways. But I never leave the book. The book is always there.